Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Sarah Scoop Show. We have Lena Stone here. Lena, you're going to get to give us the scoop on everything you've been up to. I know you've had a lot of changes in your career, and it's just awesome to see your success.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to catch up with you again. It's been a while.
Lena, I think it would be interesting to hear for those that are new to your music or new to you, and I know a lot of people are really interested in pursuing a career in music. So I'd love to hear just how you got your start and any advice you have for people in that same situation.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. I've been in music for a long time now. I think the best advice that I have is just to put yourself in a place where other people are doing what you want to be doing. So whether that's Nashville or LA or New York, if there's a scene somewhere that you can go, the best way to learn and get better is by being around other people who inspire you and challenge you and all of those things. So I think the best thing I ever did for my career was just to move to Nashville and be surrounded by, hundreds, if not thousands of amazing songwriters and writers rounds and places just to learn and meet people.
And were you always just very passionate about music, or was this something that came later in life for you?
I've always been passionate about music. My whole family sings. I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and we all sing. And my parents sang to us all the time growing up. There was always music playing. And yeah, when I turned 18, when I finished high school, I was like, all right, how can I get myself to Nashville? So I grew up in Massachusetts, which I loved growing up there, but there is not a whole lot of a music scene in rural Massachusetts.
Yeah, and I know that we had talked, and it's been quite a while, and since then a lot of things have happened for you. So I think that's also just really important for people to realize things don't always just happen overnight. So a little bit about kind of how you work to get to where you are.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. It takes time. The joke is that Nashville is a 10-year town, and that you have to be here for 10 years to make it. And obviously, there's people who it takes a lot shorter for, and some people it takes a lot longer for. But, one of the things I kept doing was just, if I could do something every day that was moving me a step closer to my goals, that was the thing. So if it was writing a new song or going out and getting coffee with someone or anything that I could do, and just kind of slowly building and just giving myself grace and knowing that it was going to take time and that was okay and that was normal, I think was really, really helpful for me.
And what does a typical day look like for you? Are you always writing? Do you have certain days that you write?
It kind of varies by season. Obviously, for the last year and a half when we've been home with nothing else to do and nowhere to go, a ton of Zoom writing, all day, every day. Now that the world is kind of opening up again and shows are more of an option, I'm writing a few days a week. Some days I'm in the studio. And it just kind of varies, which is one of the things I love about being in music is that it's not the same thing every day. It's always something different, always new people and new experiences.
And you recently kind of made the transition from country to more pop. What was the reasoning behind that, and how's it going?
It's going great. I love country music, and I love Nashville, and I have so much respect for country music, and I kind of organically just started writing songs that fit better in the pop genre, and I felt because I respect country music so much, I didn't want to just call something country because it was made in Nashville. I thought that in some ways, that almost felt disrespectful to me, and so just acknowledging that this music that I was making right now is pop felt really good and really freeing, and has kind of opened up some creative avenues for me, which I love. But I still write with a ton of country artists for their projects. I love living in Nashville here. Obviously, there's an enormous country music community, and I love that community. It's just what I'm writing right now doesn't sound like that anymore.
And has that transition been difficult for you, or how long has this process been?
It's been great. I decided that I wanted to make this project at the very beginning of 2020, and just as we were going to go in the studio and write and record the first songs, the world shut down. So, in some ways, it was actually kind of a blessing because my producer and I, who I wrote all this new music with, were able to write this music kind of in a vacuum. It was just the two of us. We were in each other's bubble in the studio. And we were almost totally unaware of the world outside of us because there was no world outside of outside of it. And so we just got to sit down and like make music we really wanted to make, which was like the most freeing conditions to make music under.
And how has it been with the fans? Has this music resonated with them? Have you noticed that, like, are you glad you went with this kind of new genre?
The response has been so great. I've always lived in a very kind of singer-songwriter crossover space anyway, and a lot of my fans, like, I feel like the comments I've seen are like, oh, this is the pop Lena we've been waiting for, or something like that, which feels like the most validating thing in the world to hear that people are sticking with me in my music, even if it sounds a little different now.
And what's the difference, like, when you're in studio versus when you're actually performing live? Like, how do you differentiate, like, the energy, the feels, all of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the studio is so, I don't know, it's almost like being in like a science lab. It's like, it's so controlled and you can spend hours getting just that one thing right if you want to. And then live, you only get one shot at each song and sometimes things happen and like they're, technical issues or whatever and you can't control that. But the flip side is when you're playing live, you get all of the energy coming back to you from the crowd and you don't get that in the studio. So I love them both, just they're very different experiences.
And you're working on an album, so we need a little bit of scoop on that. I don't know what all you can share, but
yes.
Can you hear anything about the album?
Yeah, so it will be my first album. I've done a couple EPs, but this will be my first album. I'm so excited, and it felt like such a different process to go in with the mindset of like, oh, I get to do so many songs. I don't have to cram all my ideas into 4 songs to fit on an EP. And so I'm actually headed to the studio this afternoon. We're about to record the last song for the record. And it's just been like the most fun process, and I am so excited for people to hear this music. I've already put out 3 of the singles, and probably a few more will come out before the album comes out in the fall. But it has just been like the most gratifying creative experience, I think, of my whole life.
And if people haven't listened, like, your songs are just so fun and relatable. How do you capture that every time? Like, are you writing these, like, is this all your thoughts? Are you getting these ideas from others?
Yeah, so when I write for myself, I always like to be the person who brings in the idea for the writing session, just because it feels like, even, if other people contribute lyrics or melodies, that if the original idea is mine, it's going to feel the most authentic to me. And, I just love like picking up ideas from places. I'll be driving and I'll see a billboard and I'll see a word or a phrase or something, and I'll like write it down in the notes section of my phone. And sometimes it'll sit there for like years. I have this like long, crazy long notes list of like song ideas, and some days we'll just start something. I'll be like, oh man, I forgot I wrote this word down, but like, what if this was a song? And a lot of it just comes from mining ex-boyfriends and old relationships for emotional content. It's pretty shameless.
I know people always love hearing like just
behind the scenes stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, I have a bunch. Well, I will always remember one of the first years I was in Nashville, I was playing a writer's round that a friend of mine was hosting, and she put together the lineup, and one of the guys who's going to be playing with me was this guy named Shay Mooney, and I didn't know him. I hadn't met him before, and I was coming off a little bit of a cold, so I didn't sound great. Like, it was not my best performance, and we go to play this writer's round, and I sing first, and then he goes, and he opens his mouth, and I was like, I'm so embarrassed. This is the best singer I've ever heard in my entire life. And yes, that was the same Shay of Dan and Shay, huge, huge country stars now. So, I feel like there's so many people who I've known for a long time, and we all kind of came out together, and it's been so fun watching all of their like careers take off. It's amazing.
I feel like country music people are always the nicest people. Like, how do you guys stay so grounded?
I think it's the fact that there's so many famous people in Nashville. Like, you can't get I feel like people just like have learned like you can't get an ego because you're not even all that special. There's so many talented people here. It's like, it's a really healthy ego check, I think.
And I like how, you said people that want to follow in your footsteps, want to be a musician, like embracing yourself there. Like, it sounds like the community is just very forthcoming and motivating.
Yes, very much so. It's like, it's super supportive, and every time like I put out new music. I just put out a new single 2 weeks ago, and I've put out a bunch of singles, and I feel like every time I put something out, so many of the people who are sharing it are like other artists and other musicians, and that's such a nice support system to have. And it's proof that like it doesn't have to be a competition. There's room for everybody, and everyone does something that's unique and special to them, and we can all be successful at the same time.
With your new music and your new album coming out, and I know you've transitioned into the pop, but what message do you want your like songs in this album to send to people? Like, who do you think this is going to resonate with, and why should people be following you, on the lookout, waiting for this to drop?
That's a great question. I think the message honestly is still the same as the message was with my old music. It's I believe so much in confidence, and that's really what I want my music to say to people. And not confidence like I always get everything right, I'm always killing it, but more just like I'm confident in myself and my choices and the mistakes that I've made and the history that I have and my vulnerabilities, and kind of owning that is like a really important thing to me, and I want that to come across in my music. And I hope there, the nice thing about doing an album is it's 12 songs. Hopefully there's a little something in there for everybody. But I do just love the connection, particularly with my female fans. Girls my age, girls younger than me. I have two younger sisters, so I have that big sister mentality kind of all the time. And it means so much to me when I hear from fans or people after shows and they're like, man, that song really spoke to me. It made me feel better. It made me feel like I wasn't the only person going through whatever I'm going through.
And you do have a lot of very supportive fans. I see a lot of people in here like, I love Lena, love me some Lena Stone. Like a lot of really positive comments.
Yes, yeah, I have to say I'm very lucky. So far, all my interactions online are pretty much all love and very, very few haters, which is awesome.
Do you have a message to your fans? Like anything you want to tell them?
Just thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for, especially as I'm trying out this new sound and this new music, it is like, the scariest thing was just thinking that people who would love my music for a long time weren't going to like this new music. And if anything, I feel like the support has showed me that I absolutely made the right choice in kind of making this change for myself and my music.
Yeah, and was that like scary? I know you mentioned this a little bit, kind of your transition, but was that just a feeling you had, like this is the way I need to go after you had spent, years in the country side of things, like that kind of thing?
I think it was so scary. But I think I reached a point where I felt like continuing to do what I was doing, which just wasn't working for me anymore. It wasn't fulfilling me creatively and, just like emotionally. And I needed to make this change for me. And I had my fingers crossed so hard that people would love the new music. But I felt confident that no matter what the response was, that I loved it and I needed to put it out for me. And then I just hoped people would love it. And so far they have, which is all I could ever ask for.
I know you're in Nashville and obviously you're going to be like traveling around, all of that stuff to promote your music. But do you ever do like, I know in Nashville, people just like pop up at like a bar singing randomly on a weeknight. Is there any place that you go that people might be able to just like randomly check you, find you, and check out your music?
The main place to find me in Nashville is the Listening Room Cafe. That's like my home away from home. It's a great songwriters night. So I'm there a lot. On a non-serious note, if anyone ever comes to Nashville, you could find me at Lonnie's, which is the karaoke bar downtown, which is one of my favorite places. I do a mean Britney Spears. I also am partial to Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood.
Hey, you got a good little combo there.
Exactly. That's what I grew up on, those two.
And when it comes to, I know those are your karaoke go-tos, do you have any inspiration, like performers that you are inspired by that have kind of led you to following this path? Yeah,
Taylor Swift being, the number one. I taught myself to play guitar by learning the Fearless album. Like, she will always be kind of my biggest inspiration. And right now I'm really loving Julia Michaels, Len and Stella, all these like singer-songwriters in the pop space. It's not dance pop. Like, it's not, EDM. It's vulnerable and honest storytelling just with a more pop production under it, which is what I'm hoping to do with my new stuff.
I love that. And I think too, like, what's really fun about your journey is getting to see you. Like, I saw somebody had commented, like, I love watching how you've evolved like over these last 6 years. They said they'd been, you know, following.
Yeah. I think I was Emma. Hi, Emma.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know if you were seeing these comments pop up, but I love that because it's like people are following with you through this journey. And it's like really cool that you're able to share that along the way. Like, you know, your successes, your trials, all of that.
Yeah, I'm very grateful, and you know, social media has its ups and downs for sure, and pros and cons, but being able to kind of have this closeness with the people who support me and my music is just like the biggest blessing.
And I know that you have a lot in the works right now, and we're going to keep following along, and I appreciate, you know, everything you've shared today, giving us like the inside scoop. Yeah. And so,
of course,
know, Lena, like, what other dreams and hopes do you have for your future? Like, what are you wanting? Like, what can we follow along and maybe expect to see?
Well, you know, the big thing right now is just getting this album done. It's my first album. People for years have asked me at shows, you put out an EP, or we saw you at the show, like, when are you going to do an album? And so 2020, that was what I did over quarantine. I decided I was going to make an album, and so that's like the biggest thing. And you know, beyond that, I've got some fun plans in my personal life that I'll be sharing soon, so follow along for that, and it's gonna be great.
And making that album, I know you said, you know, this was something that had been in the works. Like, I don't think that as fans people realize how much time goes into that. So like from beginning to end, how long has this album kind of taken you? I know we don't get to see it just yet, but it's coming. Yeah. But like, how long has this process been?
It'll be almost 1.5 years by the time the album's out. Yeah. So, you know, it's a baby. It is 2 babies, actually. It's basically 2 babies back to back.
Do you have to do a lot of re-records for this album and things like that? That just, you know, I guess what I'm saying is like, people are like, where's your album? We want it. But like, you're putting all this time in the studio. And like, how long does one song typically take you to record?
So we typically do a song over 3 days. So actually, like, I'm going in, as I said, today to do the last song. So today we will like map everything out. We'll build a lot of the tracks, like the musical parts, the guitars, the synths, the drums, all of that stuff. And then the second day we do vocals. So I sing for 3 or 4 hours. I sing the song a bajillion times, a bajillion different ways, and background parts and harmonies and stuff like that. And then the third day, we kind of go back in, we fine tune, we add little things, we tweak anything we need to tweak. So from there, after those 3 days, you have like a pretty close version of the song, and then the producer will, at least in our process, he'll, you know, spend some time really polishing it up on his end. He'll send it to me, I'll send notes, we'll go back and forth. And then when it's almost done, we will send it out to a mastering engineer in LA, and he'll do the final touches and then send it back.
That's so exciting. I bet you're just so anxious to like see it, hold it, get it all finished up.
Exactly. I'm already almost in the place where I'm starting to think about like track listing, like what order the songs are going to go in. And I don't want to name the album until all the songs are done, but I have a couple ideas. So I'm excited to like name it and kind of get that next phase of the process going.
Well, Lena, that is so amazing. I'm so proud of you and excited. Hopefully in the future, you'll still have time to check in with me, because I feel like
always
you're just going. I don't know what's in your future, but it's going to be big. So we will definitely follow along with you. Will you be updating like social media, I'm assuming, when you do have the album available for people?
Yes. Social media is the best place to follow me. You know, who uses websites anymore, really? We're all just on Instagram. So, yes, follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and everyone will know things as soon as I announce them.
And Dawn commented, hopefully you'll have physical CDs. Will you be releasing them where people can purchase the actual CD?
Yes, we definitely will be doing some physical CDs, for sure. Yeah. That's a great question.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Lena. I appreciate it. We're going to keep following along with you. And like I said, can't wait to see what your future holds.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so nice to catch up with you. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. Head to sarahscoop.com for more of the scoop on your favorite things.